Hello and welcome to this special edition of VGC the Video Game Podcast. I'm Jordan Midler, and today I'm joined by composer Bear McCreary. Bear, how are you?
I'm doing well, Jordan. Looking forward to this.
Very, very nice. Me too. There's a lot I've wanted to talk to you about your career, obviously God of War, things like that. And I wanted to start that off because when I was doing research for this, you obviously spoke a lot to the press around the time of Ragnarok being released, but that was 2022 now. How do you reflect on that time period now that we're almost halfway through 2025, if you can believe that?
It's pretty crazy. Just realizing, reflecting on the 20th anniversary of God of War, and celebrating with my friends at Santa Monica Studio, but then realizing that it's been 7 years since God of War 2018, and it's been 11 years since I started working on God of War. So it has been so long that it's, maybe not accurate to call those games the new God of War games, Ragnarok, 22 was a really special year for me because I really felt that Ragnarok had a lot to prove, much more than 2018. That might sound weird, but what I mean is, by in rebooting so much in 2018 and changing the vibe of the games and the camera and the, everything to some degree, there was this sense of it being a big swing. People were going to love it or hate it. But it was different. And Ragnarok had to sort of measure up to that. We were not changing everything. It was really such a continuation of 2018 that suddenly, I felt this pressure to match the score that I had written for 2018. I think fan expectation was that the game would match that. And it was a really exciting time, really proud of the game. And I think it's something that has, I continue to return to it. And with the Valhalla DLC that we created as a sort of narrative coda to the story, it's just been a really beautiful, the whole experience of Ragnarok in particular has been a beautiful one in my life, and I'm grateful for it.
Is it the game that people ask you most about when you meet them?
It's hard to say when people say, "Oh, you're the God of War guy." I mean, are they specifically saying 2018 and you mean God of War Ragnarok or just God of War?
I would say God of War perhaps generally, because obviously your career spans multiple mediums, multiple massive franchises, but I wonder if because perhaps people who play games are slightly more aware of where their music comes from composers, things like that, if that's the thing that people talk to you about the most.
It is definitely not, there is no most. I am such an odd composer. My career is such that to any given person, I am the something guy. And that's all they know, but they know it so well that they recognize my face or they recognize my name. You're the Walking Dead guy. You're the Lord of the Rings guy. You're the Godzilla King of the Monsters guy. You're the God of War guy. So I in many ways, I'm a bit of a chameleon, So I will meet fans of mine that are aware that I've done other things, but there's like one thing that I've done that is really special to them. And I love that, right? Like I love that I've managed to hit these veins in popular culture in a few places. In the gaming space, I've done quite a few games. But yes, God of War is definitely the one. I'll tell you a funny story. I was at a concert being put on by my friend Serge Tankian from System of a Down.
Oh, and System of a Down.
Me too. And I, worked with Serge a few times and on my solo record, The Singularity. So I'm at this concert and these metalheads come up to me. A couple of young guys, and they're almost starstruck, and they're looking at me, and they're pointing at my face, and they go, "You're God of War, God of War," and I go, "Yeah, that's right, that's me." And they were like, you're that dwarf in the bar in Svartalfheim. You're the dwarf guy. And I go, yeah, actually I am. And they go, wow. Man, I never thought I'd meet an actor from God of War. So like, you got to work on like God of War for like a day, right? I mean, that must have been the best day of your life. And I just looked at them realizing they did not know I wrote the music for God of War, right? They just recognized my face from that character that I played as an actor in the game. And I just looked at them and I went, yeah, man, that was the best day of my life, which was true. I'm not lying. But I mean, even God of War fans will recognize me and not know that I did the music, so it's funny, man. I'll take whatever I can get.
I wanted to talk about that kind of recognition in terms of the God of War theme, and we were talking about this in the context of the vinyl box set coming out that contains the entire franchise. If you look at the second half of the franchise, it's rare that a character's main theme gets defined in the second half of its story, if you know what I mean. And I wondered what the pressure, or if there was pressure, if that was a stated goal when you first started working on the game, because you've spoken a lot previously about how you went into Santa Monica, you guessed that it was God of War before they told you what it was going to be.
Yeah.
What were the expectations like back then? And can you reflect now and think, I've really nailed that? Because I think that's one of modern gaming, at least, most recognizable themes.
Well, yeah, it's really interesting because I have often stepped into a franchise that is beloved, that I'm a fan of, and it had previously existing music. When I met Cory Barlog, and the director of God of War 2 and the director of God of War 2018, he told me the story of this game he was making. And it was about a grieving father and son with a fractured relationship, and they go on a journey to take the ashes of the wife and mother to the highest peak in all the realms, and their relationship forges a stronger bond. Well, I thought, I know how to do that story, right? That feels like a dramatic arc that a composer coming predominantly from film and television, who studied under Elmer Bernstein, one of the great dramatic film composers of all time, would be able to do. Didn't sound like the old games.
Yeah.
And the theme took an interesting journey. The original idea was to reinvent something completely new and make it really emotional, raw, inspired by Nordic folk instruments, and emotional. So I wrote this melody for the game, for Kratos, before the game was greenlit. I was writing the prototype build that got the game picked up officially into production. So this is 2015, maybe? It's 10 years ago. I write this tune. And at that time, it was a Hardanger fiddle, a Nordic folk instrument. Ba-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-da-da-dum. That's the Kratos theme. Everybody loves it. We're done. That's great. Wow, that's different. The game gets picked up. We work on it for like a year. I start writing other themes for Freya and Baldur and the Giants and so on. But I get the message from Cory, as we're digging further into the game, it's not working. It's so great for the kid and the sadness, but there's something about Kratos that's missing. And it's not going to work. We got to throw it out. So I was heartbroken, but I was like, okay, in the trash it goes. And I wrote this new theme. And it went through very few changes. Its first draft is very close to the final sort of theme that fans would recognize, built around this 3-note sort of stoic figure. Bum, 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 bum. And they love that. That's the Kratos theme. So then 6 months later, I'm now fully in production of the game. I've been writing adaptive pieces, writing music for all the different levels. The cinematics start coming in. And in game production, the cinematics are always the last thing to come in. And here comes this cinematic with Atreus lighting candles at his mother's body, whispering gently to her. And I was like, I can't use that bum, bum, bum here. Like, what? And I thought, well, what if that original theme that I wrote that they threw out, what if I just used it? Maybe it's the mom's theme. Oh my God. Maybe that's the answer. And I didn't call Corey and say, hey, Corey, remember that theme that you told me to throw out? I'm going to bring it back. I just did it. I just put it in the score and sent it. Everybody loved it. I know I'm answering your question with a long answer, but I'm going to get to the answer. So you have two themes now for Kratos and for Faye, who doesn't even appear in that game. And the thematic interplay of those two themes is what supports the bond between Kratos and Atreus. Atreus doesn't have his own theme yet because he's trying to figure out who he is and he's yearning for a parental figure. So really the war between Faye's theme and Kratos' theme tells that complete story. Okay, that was all preamble to say there's a scene in Tyr's temple when Kratos finds an urn from Greece depicting him as the violent god killer, the ghost of Sparta. And he looks at it and has feelings. And then he quickly destroys it so his son doesn't see it. So I did a draft of that scene where we quoted one of the classic Greek saga God of War themes. And Corey instantly threw it out. Instantly. And he was right to, because what happened was, it was this lightning bolt of nostalgia for us. Like, oh, it's the thing! And there's a part of you that goes, isn't that awesome? That thing is so awesome. I love that thing. But what does he do? He breaks it out of shame and he hides it from his son. He hides it from his son. That's what the whole story's about. It's not about him looking at the urn. It's not about our memories of Greece. It's not even about his memories of Greece. It's about the son. The son cannot know this. So instead, you hear the Kratos theme that we've been developing over, by that time, I'm going to guess 8 hours of story. It's pretty far into the game. That theme has been telling that story, and narratively, it was very moving. And the side effect of that decision was that we realized that, that Greek music is so powerful, and we love it so much. This little moment, the music of those old games deserves better. Deserves better than this little cameo. And ultimately, we saved it. And we saved it throughout Ragnarok as well. And then finally, Valhalla came around. And that was the opportunity for me to incorporate it into the North Saga. And I was really glad that we had kept the powder dry and not used it until then. So the reason the theme changed is because we were telling a different story. And the opportunity to bring that theme back later proved to be a really dramatically potent.
I wanted to ask on that. You mentioned elsewhere that it's become a bit of a focus within Sony on things like music and on things like making stems available for a bigger focus for composers and giving them the opportunity to use those in different ways. You compared it to how in previous generations of composing for games, you were maybe just submitting a loop that could get higher during exciting times and get lower during quiet times. How has that evolved over your career in games, and where do you kind of see it going from here?
It's evolved a lot, and I am going to tell a story that makes it seem like I've been at the heart of it evolving, which is not true. Not true. Many teams in Japan, teams working with different audio engines in the West, have evolved audio. The general trend is that it's evolved. However, now I'm going to tell my story. When I started working on games, I came to every dev team as a gamer with my wish list, with my list of pet peeves. Why is it when you, like, for example, you get into a loop where you're dying at the same boss quickly. By the third or fourth time, you become so aware that, like, the dying music is the same and the boss fight starts, it's the same, and it becomes annoying. You want to beat the boss not because you're in it, but because you're like, can I get out of this Groundhog Day, Happy Death Day time loop of misery? How do we get around that? I don't want to hear crossfades. I don't like it when a melody is interrupted. Basically, I want to feel like there's a conductor looking over my shoulder, conducting the orchestra, adapting to how I play. No fades, no loops. How do we do that? Sometimes dev teams would look at me like I have a hole in the head. Because I'm very naive, right? At this time, I don't know anything about game development. I only know what I like and don't like in games. Then I met the team at Sony. We did a game called SOCOM 4, U.S. Navy SEALs.
Yep.
A primarily online multiplayer strategy shooter that had the great distinction of coming out within 24 hours of the infamous PlayStation hack that shut the network down for like 6 weeks. Okay, we came out like within 24 hours of that. Okay, like I cannot tell you how cursed this game was.
I have that in my notes. I was wondering if you were going to bring that up.
Oh my God, how can I not bring it up? So here's the thing, right? Before I was God of War guy, it's like SOCOM 4, right? But truly, the Sony team and I got along so well. Because I sat down in front of them and I said those same things. I want to feel like there's a conductor and the conductor's getting bored. So he does something or she does something different. Well, the Sony team working on SOCOM 4 went, you know what? That's a great idea. Let's write a new audio engine to do that. So we, working together, made a new audio engine for Sony's proprietary projects that debuted on SOCOM 4. Based largely on the things that I kept asking everybody, right? They were the first people to say, that's a good idea, let's fix it. Whatever you may think of SOCOM 4, when I played it, I noticed every time I died and I came back, you respawned in the same spot. It's like the music was so adaptive and so vibrant and alive. Like I never heard the same thing twice. I was listening like, all right, I'm listening. It was really exciting for me because I thought, wow, I feel like there's a little conductor me in the game watching my, it was everything I wanted. So, we did that again on God of War. When I came in and met, I was like, hey, that was cool. Let's push that further. We made some tweaks. On God of War Ragnarok, we made much deeper adjustments. God of War Ragnarok was a level beyond. We had a mechanism designed. This was largely led by a guy named Pete Scaturo at Sony Audio. Keith Leary is another producer involved. So I don't want to say like I'm leading the team, right? I'm the one bringing the ideas. But God of War is a thematic score. And when you are in Vanaheim, you can be there with Atreus or you can be there with Freya. Brock is a character, and I thought, well, what if now that we have themes for all these different characters, the theme that shows up in the score in a supporting role matches? And while we're at it, when combat ends, it's just a drag if the theme was in the middle of playing and it just stops. Bum, 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 bum. Let's not do that. Let's go. Bum, 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 bum. Then the combat ends. Bum, bum, bum. That is not easy. But it was, I forget what they called it. It was like the melody preservation system, right? To do that, which a conductor could do with their hand. You just point toward the French horns like, yeah, finish your phrase. Everybody else, you stop. Or go to the outro, you keep going. huge draw on resources of time and salaries. You know, the audio team is immense there. But that's an example of like, it evolves every time I do it, right? Like every time I come in and I'm like, all right. Because the thing is, I'm a gamer, right? So I play the games that I work on and others, and I'm always just thinking of like, that was cool, but what if we, you know, ... What if we, and what I love about working at Sony is that they share that same spirit of making something cooler and more seamless into the gaming experience.
When you're playing things casually, can you play things casually, or are you listening out for things and going, oh, that's quite a cool idea, oh, I wonder how they did that, how was that worked on in the background?
Playing a game casually or watching a movie or show casually requires that it be so good, so astronomically good, that I actually catch myself and go, oh my God, I'm enjoying this. And my brain is off. Right? These little things, when I talk about my wish list, my pet peeve list, whatever you want to call it, these are the things that pull me out of games. You know, around the time I was working on 2018, I was playing a AAA game that shall remain unnamed. And I noticed that all the cinematics, all of them, had like the same cue. And yeah, look, I get it. You got to write many hours of music, and scoring a cinematic is a pain in the ass because you write this music and it only appears once in a 40-hour experience, right? The return on investment is very low. Nevertheless, that's what makes a story really compelling to me. And so when I start going, oh, you're using that same thing over and over, it just drags me out of I am aware of the production of the game instead of being aware of the story, you know? So, yeah, it's difficult. But sometimes, you know, like the last game I played that utterly immersed me was Astrobot.
Oh, don't worry, we're going to talk about Astrobot.
Okay, good. Then I won't get into it now. We'll get into it. But like, that is a game where I was so delighted and I realized little things. These developers not only know what they're doing, they're going to surprise me. And then I kind of go, oh, shut my brain off and let's see where this goes. As opposed to those little things that makes you go, they ran out of time and now I'm going to try to not look for the seams. I'm going to see like the seams in the set. You know, I'm going to see the budget being strained. And it's once you start being aware of that, it's harder to enjoy. As somebody who's worked on games, you know, you love those feelings when a game starts and you're like, wow, this is gonna surprise me, and it's hard to surprise me.
Well, you mentioned it, and it was my next question. We recently had a great friend of the show and fellow Scotsman Kenny Young on to talk about Astrobot, and he wanted to know, and I promised him that I would get your reaction to this, and I don't know if you spoke about it elsewhere. What did you think of the Bot of War level?
Well, Kenny, first of all, like I had a chance to tell the Team Asobi to their face that how much I loved their game. I met them the day they came into town for the Game Awards, which was really fun. But Kenny wasn't there. I loved it. I mean, good. I loved it. I loved the level. I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it. Like, I had seen it well in advance because my friends at Santa Monica Studio were like, you got to come see this thing. Because they had been working with Team Asobi on it. While obviously I didn't work with Kenny on it, there was no need to. He nailed it. I will say also, you know, you mentioned something about my God of War theme and about it being good, and I didn't take the bait to say, yeah, man, it is good. But I'm going to do it now, because I'll tell you what Kenny did for me is that when I got to the God of War level and you heard those 3 notes, doesn't matter, they were completely recontextualized. That's my point, Jordan. It didn't matter that they had been redone in this fun, robo electro pop style. I don't know what you call his score. You hear those 3 notes, that's God of War. And that made me so proud because I realized it really hit me that like I made something so distinct and simple and transmutable that you could do it in all these different styles, and it's instant. And I would say of all the sort of like musical references in Astro Bot, God of War was the most immediate. Instant. It took a second. You go, oh, bum, bum, bum. This is God of War. So I was grateful. I was like, hey, man, like Kenny, like, sort of held a mirror up to what I had written. And that made me feel really good. I mean, I loved it.
To me, it's almost like there's a moment in the first Respawn Jedi game where, spoilers, but it's an old game, Darth Vader appears, but you just hear the breathing in like the first few notes of his theme. To me, Kratos' theme is exactly like that because you get it so quickly. Similarly in games, much like in Astro Bot, I know you're a fan of Uncharted, that kind of horn section, that like, it's the exact same thing, you just kind of get it immediately. So I'm very glad that you got to appreciate and experience that via the medium of Kenny's like weird electronic version of all of this stuff.
Yeah, I am a huge fan of the scores to the first 3 Uncharted games. Huge fan.
Yeah.
For exactly the bold thematic writing that you're describing. I want to tell you one quick story that's related to this. Because you said something about everybody knows it, or something. You were talking about those 3 notes, right? The God of War theme, the Kratos theme that I wrote. So, at E3 2016, this game was announced. And when the game was announced, there was a red curtain down at the shrine and an orchestra in the pit, and no one knew what was coming. And I walked out on stage and started playing music for like 4 minutes, right? I played the entire theme. We had Ivor there singing and doing her grunting percussion. Nobody knew what this was. So I got to start by saying like the swing to say, we're not coming out and playing the Uncharted anthem or playing the theme to Last of Us or playing music from Crash Bandicoot. Like, you don't know this. You don't know this. And then you hear it over and over. Bum, 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 bum. The curtains part and you see a little boy playing with toys. And now everyone's like, what is this? His dad calls him into the house. And off camera, he tells him, we're going to go hunting. And everyone's like, what is this? Camera pans. I'm getting chills just thinking about this moment. Okay, because I am at the Shrine Auditorium with like a 60-piece orchestra in front of me and thousands of fans behind me. We're all in this together. Kratos steps out of the shadows as an older man for the first time, and the orchestra live in the room goes bum, 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 as if to say, that thing you've been hearing for 4 minutes, those notes, you've already heard those notes, I don't know, I'm going to guess like 48 times. It's him. It's him. And it's like in that moment when everybody cheered, the fascinating thing is that like before the game even came out, I feel like we taught the audience to expect to hear those 3 notes when you see Kratos, right? Like it's not just like in game that it functions. It was like before the game even came out, and that was like one of the best moments of my creative life, right there. It was, I knew in that moment it was working so effectively, and it, yeah, I don't know, man.
one of the most iconic E3 reveals ever, in my opinion. It brings to mind the PlayStation experience reveal of The Last of Us Part 2, when it was just shots of scenery and very slight strings. Obviously, Gustavo Santaolalla's theme there is in the same bracket for me with God of War and Uncharted, so I'm going to have to go back and watch that now. It's been quite a while since I watched that, the God of War reveal, but it's one that people go back to.
Story. Then the presentation was Corey playing a build of the game. It was not a trailer. Mm-hmm. That is like being on the tightrope with no safety net.
Yeah.
Okay. And the thing that I said, my dream as a game developer, ever since I was a kid, when I thought maybe I'll work on games, I wanted to feel like there was a conductor conducting a live orchestra, watching me play the game. Well, what did we do at E3 2016 in front of the world? Exactly that. Corey played this build of the game, and the orchestra played along live in real time. And I told Corey later, I was like, you lived my dream, man. You might have just had the best gaming musical experience that anyone will ever have.
I miss those in-person events specifically because of that kind of moment. You don't have that moment over a live stream of you playing there for that long amount of time. I hope we can get back to that at some point. Cause
I hope so too. Missed. I hope so too. And yet, when I look back on that, I know that it will remain one of the best creative days of my life, and I don't expect it to be topped. Look, right, they don't even do presentations like that anymore. But also to be a part of a reveal like that for a game that would go on to become God of War 2018. I mean, this is like, it's like getting struck by lightning while you're holding a winning lottery ticket. You know, I mean, the odds are very low.
Obviously, now where we are with the God of War franchise, there is the development of the TV series. Firstly, I'd like to ask, if you were asked to contribute to that, would you be interested? Do you feel ownership over the kind of musical scape of that franchise at the moment?
I definitely don't feel ownership. I feel stewardship.
Better way to put it.
You know, I feel it's weird to be like, I'm like Denethor from Return of the King. Just give me the tomatoes, man. But anyway, that was a deep cut, but I figure half your audience probably knows what that is. Probably more than half, let's be real. Okay, no, look, I mean, I was just at the cast panel for the God of War 20th Anniversary Retrospective Gallery here in Southern California. And I sat in this room, and there were exhibits along the wall for all 7 mainline, or I guess 9 games. It was the 6 Greek plus Betrayal and the 2 Norse ones. So it's this pantheon. It's like literally like a pantheon, right? And you're looking around the room, and I'm seeing all of the artists that have contributed. And it was quite moving, realizing how many people had been involved, you know? And no single person has been involved in all of them in any kind of like primary capacity. There's been a sort of brain trust of people, honored to sort of know a good 5 or 6 of them that go back to that first game, you know? And then coming around the room, I saw God of War 2018 and God of War Ragnarok. And, you know, my sheet music was on the wall. My signed scores in frames that I had given to Santa Monica. And it really hit me like, wow. I mean, that I got to contribute to this, you know? And then even with God of War Ragnarok Valhalla, the DLC that we did, I won't spoil it. There's an ending cinematic to that really was important to me to score that. It brings a sort of closure to to Kratos' arc. So I feel like my contribution, starting with E3 2016, I mean, honestly, starting with the demo build that got the game greenlit. Like, I helped make that, you know, all the way through Valhalla. My contributions are, you know, sort of, I feel good. I feel complete. I feel like I told a story. So yeah, you know, if there's anything else that needs music moving forward, you know, they've got my number. Everybody's got my number. I'm here. But I'm really proud of what I did, you know?
Excellent. Just before we go, you've been an incredibly busy man, but it's been a couple of years now since you contributed to a video game. The last one I can see here is Forspoken. Are you coming back to games? Because we miss you. We would like you to be part of games again. Is that something we can look forward to? I'm not going to ask you to tell me what you're working on.
Oh man, well,
I assume you won't be able to, but
I appreciate that. Yeah, look, Forspoken was a blast. First of all, I got to work with my buddy Gary Scheinman of BioShock fame, and so that was a blast. Yeah, I'm working on a number of games, so you know, I'm not going anywhere, you guys. I'm in it for the long haul.
Excellent. And just finally, as we close out, kind of the wrapper into this entire conversation is this appreciation of God of War for 20 years collected in these vinyls. And I think it's kind of incredible, the move of the past 10 years where so many game soundtracks are available on vinyl, especially if you're a massive collector. As someone who grew up listening to scores, being obsessed with scores, is it still an adrenaline rush to hold a physical vinyl of something that you've scored yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up collecting soundtracks, so that's always part of it for me. I have to say, honestly, like, I love the collections and I love signing them for fans. The next frontier for me is playing it live.
Yeah.
That's that sort of, because being able to hold something and say, I made this and sign it for you and you have it is awesome. And I'm grateful to that. But like, you know, I'm doing a world tour now, man. I'm doing my Themes and Variations tour, and you know, I'm playing some God of War in that, you know, and that to me, because what I'm craving with vinyls, with the live performances, I'm craving that interaction. You know, that's what I think that's why E3 2016 just lives on in my memory. It's not because of what we did. It's because we were in the room with all these fans at the same time, you know? So as I put this tour together and I was thinking about like, what are all the pieces of music I want to play live and have that again? I'm craving it. I'm craving that E3 2016 energy, you know? So yeah, man, I mean, that's to me, that's almost like, with this tour that I'm launching in a few weeks, and we're playing Europe and I think starting April 18 in London, and then North America and then Australia. Like I'm hoping to get that adrenaline. That's the adrenaline rush that is like the next level for me, you know. So I think that's where I'm going with this next phase of my career, you know. But I'm honored to see that sort of half of the vinyl box set, the God of War collected vinyls. Like, that's pretty amazing to see all that music that I wrote there.
Well, maybe if you ask nicely, Corey will come out and play a live demo just as you play to add to the tension and excitement for you there.
Maybe that would be pretty amazing, man. That's all right. I'm gonna text Corey right now.
Well, thank you very much, Bear. You can check out bearmccreary.com/events for tickets for his upcoming Themes and Variations tour. Thank you for listening to VGC, a video game podcast. Remember, you can check out more of VGC at patreon.com/videogameschronicle. We'll see you next time.